Weird movie facts. It is widely believed that Shrek was modeled after Maurice Tillett, aka the world's ugliest man. He was a celebrated pro wrestler in the 1940s who suffered from acromegaly, a condition that results in bone overgrowth and thickening. Despite the rumors, DreamWorks has never openly commented on this. All of the snow used in The Wizard of Oz was 100% pure asbestos. The 1981 movie Roar is considered to be the most dangerous film to ever shoot. Over 70 crew members who worked with the animals suffered injuries like bone fractures, scalpings, and gangrene. Much of the footage capturing the injuries was included in the film, resulting in a lot of real blood on screen. Real bees were used during the filming of the 90s horror trilogy Candyman. Over the course of the 3 movies, actor Tony Todd got stung 23 times. The producers paid him $1,000 per sting. The gory horror film Cannibal Holocaust was so realistic that the director was charged with murder. Cast and crew members had to appear before an Italian court to prove that the film's special effects were not actual torture. The Nightmare Before Christmas had 24 frames to a second, meaning they had to pose characters 24 times for each second of the movie. In total, the movie consisted of roughly 110,000 frames. Morbid facts. Paul Carrison's entire skin gradually turned blue after he attempted to use silver as a home remedy. He was trying to treat his dermatitis, a skin condition. It is rather common to break someone's ribs while performing CPR on them. A lot of people say it sounds and feels just like bubble wrap. In 1973, a man purchased an old hearse and told all his friends that he needed it to bring all the people he killed to his private cemetery. While all of his friends thought he was kidding, it was serial killer Donald Gaskins telling the truth. In 1980, when a group of loggers were cutting off the top of a chestnut oak tree, they noticed the mummified remains of a hunting dog. Experts believe that it chased its prey up the tree in the 1960s, only to get stuck and eventually die. He was posthumously named Stucky. After Wildlife Wonderland in Melbourne, Australia went abandoned in 2012, a dead great white shark was left to decompose in a tank for more than 5 years. This is a leaked screenshot from CNN's supposed doomsday tape. The footage is meant to be broadcasted by the last surviving employee in case all of humanity is about to die. It features a marching band playing the song Nearer My God to Thee, the same song that onboard musicians played as the Titanic sank. JFK's little sister Rosemary was born mentally ill and the Kennedy family didn't want to be embarrassed by her. So they paid a surgeon to perform a lobotomy on her when she turned 23. During a lobotomy, the surgeon would shove a metal rod into the skull through the eye socket and scramble the frontal lobe. Rosemary was awake the whole time and doctors asked her questions while they were cutting away at her brain. When she suddenly stopped verbally responding, they ended the surgery. Following the operation, Rosemary Kennedy was never able to walk or talk again. She was institutionalized for the rest of her life until she died at the age of 86. Michael Jackson avoided tragedy on 9/11 thanks to his mother. He had a meeting at the top of one of the towers that morning, but missed his appointment because he overslept. The night before, he had been up late talking to his mom on the phone until 3 a.m. In France, you can legally marry a dead person as long as you can prove that they planned on marrying you before they died. On June 11, 2019, Illinois teenager Riley Horner was accidentally kicked in the head. As a result of the injury, her memory resets every 2 hours and she wakes up every day thinking it's June 11th. The suit worn by the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz was made out of real lion skin and fur. Several lions were killed in order to make the costume look as realistic as possible. In 2012, a woman from New York donated her kidney to save the life of her boss. The boss then fired her when she took too long to recover from the operation. A British Royal Marine had a leg tattoo of Liverpool's motto, "You'll never walk alone." But after a major injury in Afghanistan, his leg was amputated. The surgeon had to cut the tattoo so it now read, "You'll never walk." In 1994, Mauro Prosperi was competing in a 145-mile endurance event through the Sahara Desert. During the race, a sandstorm disoriented Prosperi, causing him to run nearly 200 miles in the wrong direction. He soon found himself completely stranded in the middle of the desert without any resources. After a few days of suffering, he decided to slit his own wrists, attempting to die a less painful death. But he was so dehydrated that his thick blood clotted up the wounds and he woke up the next day. 9 days later, he was rescued in a completely different country after losing 40 pounds of body weight. He survived off of insects, cactuses, his own urine, bats, snakes, and wet wipes. Tom and Eileen Longergan were a young couple from Louisiana on a vacation in the Coral Sea off the coast of Australia. They were scuba diving with a large group in the open ocean and were accidentally left behind. By the time someone realized they were missing, it was too late, and the couple was never found. This is a series of cat paintings by famous artist Louis Wain from the early 1900s. They capture a slow descent into the varying levels of his schizophrenic episodes. After watching a documentary about women being tortured and killed in a basement, Katrina McGaw realized she was actually living in the same apartment. This is the tomb of little Merritt Beardsley, an 8-year-old boy who died of an uncurable illness in 1865. A few days before he died, he told his dad that he was afraid of death because he didn't want to be buried in the dark. So his parents honored his wish and put a window in his tomb. In 2006, a woman who had been missing for 3 years was found dead in her London flat, with the TV still running. In 2013, a Nigerian chef survived in a sunken ship for nearly 3 days. It was 270 feet deep in pitch black water, and he said the only thing he could hear was the sound of fish eating the corpses of his shipmates. It is estimated that up to 2 million German women were raped by Soviet soldiers following World War II. Frankie Muniz has had 9 concussions throughout his life and now suffers from severe memory loss. His condition is so bad that he doesn't even remember being on the TV show Malcolm in the Middle. According to ancient beliefs, birthmarks show how you were killed in your past life. A man named Michael Paul was on his way home from church when he decided to casually crack his neck like any other time. But afterwards, he suddenly started sweating profusely and then went pale. By the time Paul could receive medical care, he had already slipped into a coma. Soon afterwards, Michael Paul had died from cracking his neck. When Pablo Escobar's daughter wanted a unicorn, he bought her a horse and stapled a cone to its head and wings to its back. The horse died a week later due to severe infections. In 1984, a woman started hearing a voice in her head. The voice told her she had a brain tumor, where the tumor was, and how to treat it. Despite no other symptoms, the doctors ordered tests and found the tumor right where the voice said it would be. In 1998, 2-year-old Harrison Johnson was stung 432 times after disturbing a yellow jacket's nest in Tampa, Florida. Harrison's parents asked for neighborhood children and local church members to pray for him, but they didn't call for medical help until he stopped breathing more than 7 hours later. The parents belong to a religion that looks down on hospitals because they believe that doctors practice witchcraft. Doctors say the little boy could have been saved, but likely died an exquisitely painful death as a result of his parents' negligence. There's a pair of conjoined twins whose brains are so intertwined that they share each other's senses. One can see what the other sees, taste what the other tastes, and feel what the other feels. If you hit someone with your car in China, you have to pay for their medical care. But killing someone with your car in China is just a one-time fine. For this reason, people have gone back to kill the person that they accidentally hit. The Roman Emperor Nero accidentally killed his pregnant wife by kicking her to death. He then found a young boy who looked exactly like her, castrated him, and married him. A man was looking for his childhood home on Google Maps when he found both of his dead parents still sitting outside. As the Titanic sank, one female passenger chose to stay on board because she refused to leave her dog. She was found dead in the water, holding her dog in her arms. If sugar gliders are deprived of social interaction, they can become so sad that they can die from loneliness. In 2007, a man from Florida woke up in the middle of the night with a severe headache. When he drove to the hospital, they found a bullet in his head. It turned out that his wife had shot him in the head while he was sleeping. Actor and comedian Chris Farley was originally casted to be the voice of Shrek, but he died of a drug overdose in 1997 when 90% of his lines were recorded for the movie. In 19th century Great Britain, it was illegal to attempt suicide. If the person was caught, the crime was punishable by hanging. You are 14% more likely to die on your birthday than any other day of the year. Despite its popularity, Botox is the deadliest known substance on the planet. Just 1 gram of Botox is toxic enough to kill more than 5 million grown adults. Weird war facts. In 1964, the US Army performed an experiment to see if 3 young physics students could design an atomic bomb. They had no specific knowledge of nuclear weapons and were only given access to publicly available documents. Within 3 years, they succeeded. Over 160 years ago, a Frenchman and a Russian shot at each other during the Crimean War and their bullets collided. During World War II, a Nazi officer ordered his soldiers to hold their fire to allow for the rescue of an American soldier who had stepped on a landmine. When no one came for help, the officer went to rescue the soldier but stepped on a landmine himself. During World War I, Hungarian soldier Paul Kern was shot in the head and lost part of his frontal lobe. However, instead of killing him, the gunshot otherwise made him unable to sleep. And as a result, the man stayed awake for the next 40 years until his death in 1955. A few doctors theorized that Kern likely fell asleep for seconds at a time throughout the day without even realizing it. Other doctors believed that the bullet tore away the part of his brain that needed to be replenished by sleep. But to this day, researchers still can't explain how he was able to survive for so long without sleeping. Weird movie facts. Johnny Depp said he based his depiction of Willy Wonka on how he imagined former President George W. Bush to act while stoned. This is what the set of the original black and white Addams Family TV show looked like in color. The actor who played Danny in The Shining didn't know it was a horror movie until he was done with filming. He was led to believe that he was just filming a drama movie of a family that lives in a hotel. A group of psychologists studied 400 movies to find the most realistic psychopath, and the winner was Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. They said that he seems to be effectively invulnerable and resistant to any form of humanity or emotion. Weird crime facts. In 2015, a man dressed as Darth Vader walked into a Swedish high school carrying a sword. Believing it to be some kind of joke, a number of students posed with him for pictures. But after the cameras were put away, he pulled out his sword and suddenly went on a rampage, killing 2 students and injuring several more. David Parker Ray, aka the Toy Box Killer, abducted his victims before drugging them. When they woke up, they were played a recording in which he would describe the torture that they'd experience over the next 30 days. He is believed to have tortured and killed more than 50 women in his soundproof trailer. Weird nature facts. Photographer Atif Saeed nearly got himself killed in order to capture this photo, which was taken just moments before the lion tried to attack him. He drove up to the lion, sat on the ground next to his car, and left the door open. The door being left open was the only reason he was able to escape unharmed. In case anyone is wondering what happened to the dinosaurs, here's what a baby blue heron looks like. The Bajau people of Southeast Asia are considered sea nomads. They have no homes, money, or nationalities, and they spend 60% of their time underwater. They can go spearfishing at depths greater than 200 feet without scuba gear or oxygen tanks. They've even developed much larger spleens than the average human thanks to evolution. While it may look edited, this is just a photo of the giant African land snail. While often considered to be an invasive species, they can be kept as pets. They can live for several years and can grow up to 8 inches long. Photographer Herbert van der Beek captured this extremely rare moment of a jaguar diving underwater to catch its prey. Leoconcha hieroglyphica is a mollusk that received its name because it looks like it's covered in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Only discovered in 1976, the megamouth shark is an extremely rare species of deep water shark. Less than 100 of them have ever been seen or caught. Although they look nothing alike, the stunningly iridescent Nicobar pigeon is the closest living relative to the extinct dodo bird. This manta ray, caught off the coast of New Jersey in 1933, was one of the largest ever caught. It weighed over 5,000 pounds and had a wingspan more than 20 feet wide. Cats have contributed to the extinction of at least 63 global vertebrate species. They are often considered one of the most environmentally damaging invasive predators on the planet. In the ideal environment, 2 rats can turn into 482 million rats over a span of just 3 years. The orca whale who starred in Free Willy was released back into the wild in 2002 after being in captivity for 23 years. A few weeks after his release, he showed up at a Norwegian beach in hopes of seeking human contact. He would even give rides to children on his back. Weird disappearances. In 2008, 19-year-old Brandon Swanson was driving to a friend's party when he crashed his car into a ditch. He called his dad to come pick him up, but he couldn't find him, despite knowing the area very well. Eventually, Brandon started walking and said he was approaching something that looked like a city up the road. Suddenly, Brandon yelled, "Oh shit!" and his phone went silent. His car was later found abandoned in the ditch, just as he had described it. But no city could have been anywhere near the area he was walking in. Brandon Swanson is still missing to this day, with very little evidence found since. In the year 2000, 18-year-old Zeb Quinn went missing after finishing his shift at a Walmart in North Carolina. His car was discovered 2 weeks later in a restaurant parking lot under mysterious circumstances. Its headlights were still on, a big pair of lips were drawn on the back windshield with red lipstick, and a live Labrador puppy was found inside the car. But otherwise, very little evidence has been found, and Zeb Quinn remains missing to this day. In 1979, a 13-year-old girl named Diane Dye told her friend that she was gonna run away for a few days. Since her parents were getting divorced, Diane thought this would bring them back together. So she did what she said but never came back, and she remains missing more than 40 years later. Morbid facts. Russian scientist Vladimir Demikhov is widely considered to be a pioneer in the world of organ transplants. He is also more notoriously known for his attempts to create a 2-headed dog during the Cold War era. He created about 20 of these dogs, which had the ability to move around, drink water, and even bark. Most died within days, but one specimen was able to live for more than a month. Experts have considered his work horrifying but incredible. These were the clothing and acts of Rome's most famous executioner, Mastro Tita. He carried out a total of 516 executions over a 68-year span. In 2015, 17-year-old Rebecca Townsend completed her bucket list right before she was hit by a car. Her final goal was to save a life. Before the car hit her, she pushed her friend out of the way and sacrificed herself. In 2008, a 23-year-old Vietnamese woman suffered from a mysterious food allergy that aged her about 50 years in just a few days. Recognize any of the objects in this photo? This picture is designed to give the viewer the simulated experience of having a stroke. Everything looks hauntingly familiar, but you can't quite fully recognize a single object. In 1939, 5-year-old Lena Medina became the youngest confirmed person to ever give birth. Her son was born by C-section and was raised as her brother. Medina is still alive today, but has never revealed the identity of the father nor the circumstances of her impregnation. This is why you should never put your feet on a car's dashboard. 22-year-old Grain Healy had her legs propped up when the airbag went off and forced both of her feet into her skull, breaking almost every bone in her face. As a result of her injuries, part of her skull was removed and she lived without a forehead for 2 years. Celestis Incorporated is a company that will send your cremated remains into space. For a price ranging from $1,000 to $15,000, you have the option of being launched into deep space, to the moon, or into Earth's orbit. In the 9th century, the corpse of a pope was put on trial and found guilty. His 7-month-old skeleton had 3 fingers removed and was thrown into a river with weights tied to it. In 2008, Charles Peck was killed instantly in a commuter train crash in California. But somehow 35 phone calls were made to his friends and family from Charles's phone in the 12 hours before his body was recovered. When answered, all people could hear was static on the line. Everyone thought he was just lost in the wreckage until his mutilated body was found. In 1955, a pregnant woman was scheduled for a C-section in Morocco, but she fled the hospital after watching another woman die during the procedure. She was in pain for a few days afterwards, but when the pain suddenly disappeared, she simply went on with her life. 46 years later, she was diagnosed with a tumor. It turned out to be the calcified baby still inside of her. In the year 1916, a town in Tennessee hanged an elephant. Mary the Asian elephant was once the star of the show at the Sparks world-famous circus. But one day, she was working with a trainer who was clearly not qualified for the job. During a parade, the man hit her with a spear and abused her excessively. In pain, she suddenly ran at him and stomped on his head, killing him instantly. Local residents began crying for blood, so the circus owner agreed to kill Mary in retribution. On the evening of September 12, 1916, murderous Mary was hanged from a crane in front of a crowd of cheering people. A boy born with just 2% of his brain completely defied doctors' predictions after his brain grew back to 80% of the average size. Doctors had told the parents to terminate the pregnancy not once, but 5 times. The 8-year-old from England is the only known child to ever survive this condition. In order to keep Genghis Khan's burial a secret, all 2,000 plus people who attended his funeral were executed. The executioners were then killed by members of his escort. 800 years later, the site still remains undiscovered to this day. In 1972, Neil Armstrong visited the town of Langholm, Scotland. When he got there, he was read a 400-year-old law declaring that any Armstrong found in the town should be hanged. This is a high-resolution image of stitches in the eye after a corneal transplant. Thanks to the National Association for the Preservation of Skin Art, you can leave your tattoos behind after you die. After the funeral home has removed your tattooed skin, the organization will preserve it in a frame and send it to your loved ones. This is a photo of Benjamin, the last known Tasmanian tiger, at the Hobart Zoo in 1936. The species officially went extinct when Benjamin was locked outside of his sleeping quarters on a cold Tasmanian night and froze to death. This is a photo of 2 4-year-old boys playing in a sandbox full of asbestos in the town of Wittenoom, Australia in 1954. This was during a time when very little was known about the devastating effects of asbestos on humans. Both boys eventually died from mesothelioma before the age of 40. This is how the population of American buffalo dropped from 30 million to 300 in just 50 years. Those are all buffalo skulls. During the French Revolution, people on death row often fought to be the first one executed by the guillotine. This was because the blade would dull after multiple uses and eventually wouldn't cut the head clean off on the first attempt. This former jailer from Georgia was arrested on rape charges. Police say the scratch marks in his mugshot are from the victim fighting back. This is a photo of a 9-year-old boy from Amsterdam during the winter hunger Dutch famine that ended in 1945. Many children carried spoons with them wherever they went just in case they'd be offered a meal. This is a medical journal showing the before and after of a mental patient who received a lobotomy. The caption reads, "Simple schizophrenia patients make nice household pets after operation." Weird space facts. In 1954, Ann Hodges was hit by a softball-sized meteorite while taking a nap in her Alabama home. The odds of this happening are less likely than winning the Powerball, as Hodges was put in the history books as being the only human to ever be hit by a meteorite. This is the clearest photo ever taken on the surface of Venus. If the sun was scaled down to the size of a white blood cell, the Milky Way galaxy would be the size of the continental United States. When Michael Collins took this photo in 1969, he was the only human, living or dead, not contained within the frame of it.